Hello everyone, and today we are going to talk about the case for proving grounds in SWTOR. And if you don't know what proving grounds are, or proving grounds or some sort of training, we're going to use proving grounds as the example. Because the example that we're going to use, the gameplay footage that you're looking at, is World of Warcraft. This is a freshly dinged level 100. I got my gnome warlock demon child up to level 100, and basically proving grounds is a training scenario in World of Warcraft. It is required. Now, it is required in Warlords of Draenor. It was introduced in, I think it was Mists of Pandaria. It was, because we're in Pandaria for this. It's a very Pandaria themed training ground. But it is required. You need at least a silver. I think it's the silver rank to. There's 3 ranks: bronze, silver, gold. You need the silver rank to get into, or to be able to queue for heroic dungeons. Now, you need to get the silver rank in that role. So, for example, I had to do it twice on my paladin because I have a holy paladin and a retribution. My 2 specs that I go with for the paladin. Holy is the healer, retribution is the DPS. So again, I had to do the healing challenge to play as a healer, and I had to do the DPS challenge to play as DPS. If I wanted to play the paladin as a tank, the protection paladin, I would have had to do it again as a protection paladin, of course, and be able to do it. So you can't just do it as the easiest thing and then queue for another role. Like, if it was easier to do the DPS one and you wanted to be a healer, you could do the DPS one and queue as a healer. No, it doesn't work like that. It is locked to the role. You need to do the silver rank. I think it's like, there is 3. The silver is fairly easy, as you can see. The bronze one that we were looking at early on. So again, freshly dinged level 100. We want to get into heroic dungeons, of course, because we want to progress on to raiding again, because you get item level 630. I'm still in heirloom gear, as you can see. 605, the heirloom gear is the Hellscream's War Staff, goes up to 620. But yeah, you want to get into normal dungeons. You can queue for without doing this, but heroic dungeons, get the 630. You want to get into, LFR, High Mall, and Blackrock Foundry, which have a gear requirement. You can't queue for them until you meet the gear requirement. I think it's 615 for High Mall, 635 for Blackrock Foundry. So again, you do kind of want to get into them. You get 630 from the heroic dungeons. Plus, the heroic dungeon content is pretty good in Warlords of Draenor, so you would want to do that. If we compare WoD to SWTOR, compared to Shadow of Revan, you do the solo content, which is a joke in terms of its difficulty, a complete joke, and then you go from sort of, or you can do tactical flashpoints, which who cares about them, and then you go straight to hard mode flashpoints, which are very, very different. They do have things like kill order, they do have things like interrupt, stuns, you have to CC things, you have to kite things around. I mean, that's what this tests you. It's not really about DPS numbers, it's more of dealing with fight mechanics. You'll have a healer, which is why I have the observer pit out. You'll have like a healer apparition. Now, these things don't attack you. They don't attack you for the DPS one. The healer one, you have a group. I think it's the pandas at the beginning that you see, that you talk to initiate the challenge. You get a group of them. Of course, they have 1 tank, I think it's 1 tank, 3 DPS, and you're the healer. And you have to keep the group alive. Now, the DPS will make mistakes. They will stand in stupid things. So it does kind of simulate a typical fight. I think you have 1 melee, 2 ranged at least. And the 2 ranged always stand apart, of course. So it's designed to kind of challenge you. Because you're going to go into sort of pug groups is what you're going to go into with heroic dungeons. There's a lot of pug heroic dungeons running. They're pretty easy right now. I mean, and most people are overgeared. I mean, they were quite difficult at the beginning of the expansion, but they were quite good actually. But I mean, it's just the way, the contrast in how they handle things, how Blizzard handles it from BioWare is very, very interesting, because hard mode flashpoints in SWTOR are just kind of got abandoned, and they're kind of useless, and nobody does them because the perception is that they're too hard now. They still got that perception. Like, if you get Blood Hunt hard mode, even though it's been nerfed, people will still quit at the beginning of it. I mean, I did it in a pug. As a, even on my worst healer, I managed to do it, which is the sorcerer healer. By far the worst geared healer. Only a 2-piece set bonus is what we got. The other 2 healers have the 6-piece set bonus and have Revanite gear. My sorcerer has 2 resurrected pieces. The rest are all Massassi Mark 1 or 190. You know, 190, 192. So, you know, not well geared in comparison, but could still do Blood Hunt hard mode. But it's that perception. And I think it would help. I mean, it would help certainly for the story mode players who want to, you know, want to go into PvE. You know, they want to take those steps into PvE and start with hard mode flashpoints. And it would also stop people kicking people for not having enough HP, because that is ridiculous. Really, it never happens in WoW for a heroic dungeon. You never get kicked for not having full item level 700 gear, you know. I think, is that the best in slot in WoW? I don't remember. I don't really raid that much in WoW, to be honest. So for having like full, you know, fully sort of Warforged mythic gear to do heroic dungeons, they don't kick you for that in WoW. They really don't, because the heroic dungeons are not that hard if you're in full mythic gear, I guess. Mythic is the highest tier, but you don't, you know, it's not like SWTOR where they say, oh, you need full 198 gear, but it's not the good 198 Revenite gear, or full 192 Masashi Mark 1 gear with its poorly itemized stats. But yeah, that is, it's not required. I mean, I saw a video that someone put up where they do it all in 178s. Now, they were in a guild group. I mean, yeah, guild groups can do Blood Hunt in full 178s. Pugs, no. I don't think a pug group can. So they say yes, theoretically, it is possible to do it at the recommended item level. However, 186, there's no real, I mean, 186, 190 you should really, because you get 190 for doing story content anyway. So there's no real reason why you shouldn't be in 190 when you start. And 190 is overgeared. Put it that way, 190 is. It's better than the 192 Masashi stuff. Depends on the class, really, I guess. I mean, some tank PCs are better, depends on the tank. 192, but again, elite comms fairly easy to get these days as well. You get them for doing dailies, at least, or the weekly at the end of the dailies. So gearing for HM flashpoints is not really the issue. It's mostly the player base, because bad players in good gear are still going to be bad players. They're still going to be burdens, and a lot of the fights are very mechanical based in SWTOR. It's about executing the mechanics rather than having the gear. You know, if you look at the Depths of Manan bonus boss, you know, again, if you can't soak the demo probes, a lot of people falsely think the tank has to soak the demo probes, but again, it's not a good idea, because it's going to be a wipe, because the debuff that you get. Now, the debuff has apparently been nerfed. It has been nerfed to 75% damage, but it still says 100% damage on the tooltip. So you want the DPS and the healers to soak that. I don't have any footage of that, because no one can ever do it. Really, that's the problem. And if I ever do it as a non-healer class, people always get stunned. Healers have to cleanse that stun. You'll see a little countdown timer on the debuff, and you have to cleanse it before it gets to 0, because a stunned tank is a disaster. It's a wipe, really, if the tank gets stunned. DPS, you don't want the DPS to get stunned. You don't want to be stunned yourself, but the DPS can take, you know, they can take an explosive probe, a demo probe, I think it is called. Demolition probe is what it's called officially. But yeah, they can take it. You know, they can take a couple of them. They can take at least 2. I can take 2 in a row with the debuff as an operative if I spec into augmented shields. And that's an operative with less than 50k HP can take that. You know, you can take 2 of them pretty easily. I have to do it because no one else will do it. They think, oh, the tank's got to do that. That's a damage thing. But no. With defensive cooldowns, you take very little damage. And again, the only other source of damage in that fight is from the boss. So, again, only the tank should be taking damage from the boss, really. And the DPS and healer can take some damage from the demo probes. It's not a problem to heal through, because theoretically you shouldn't be taking any other damage. You know, and you just have to keep the tank up, keep your cleanses up. It's quite tough on the healer. But again, these are the things that Proving Grounds in WoW, at least, kind of cover. You know, they cover burst healing, they cover the DPS taking damage, they cover cleanses for debuffs and things like that. They cover that, they tell you these things, and again, if you fail it, if one of the party members dies, you fail it as a healer. I don't know what the tanking one's like, because I don't have any tanks in World of Warcraft, so I haven't had a chance to try them, but I've done the DPS one, and I have done the healer one. So, I mean, the healer one is pretty good, actually. I mean, it's a good way to, if you think about it, integrate your companions into it. If you want to play content with your companions, just have an area, a little instanced area, where you can go, bring out 2 or 3 companions. You know, say you're a healer. Use the healer example. If you're a Inquisitor, you're a Sorcerer healer, you get Chemval as your tank, you get Andronicus as the range DPS, and you'll get, say, Ashara. We'll say Ashara as the melee DPS. So you've got all types there. You've got your chem tanking, Ashara's melee DPS. You've got Andronicus, and you're playing the healer. Obviously, if you're playing the DPS, you would maybe have, what was it, Talos Drelic would be healing, and you know, chem tanking, and you'd have Ashara as melee DPS. So again, you would get to experience group content with a wide variety, and it's a good safe place to fail. Actually, it's a very, very safe place to fail in WoW as well, you know, because you're not affecting groups, you're not getting kicked from groups, and if you fail you can just go back and retry it. There's no repair bills, so you're not ruining other people's game, which is pretty good actually. You're not ruining the game for other people, which again I think is a decent thing. And again, it should be, I think SWTOR should do. I should point out that Final Fantasy XIV has a similar system. They have guild tests, which the first few are like small group content tutorials. They kind of give you instructions on how to do it. It's another pretty good idea. You queue for it with an actual group of players though, unlike WoW where you're doing it with NPCs, or you're doing it on your own if you're a DPS. But I think it's a very effective tool, and it helps bridge the gap between story and at least PvEers, at least, I suppose. I mean, in the new expansion we're going to focus on story content, but if we want to turn those story players and keep them around, I think it's a good idea to put some sort of training in the game, because it is a very safe place to fail. You fail, all you do is restart in WoW. You know, if you fail it, just restart it. Simple as that. You know, there's no real consequences, no repair bills, nothing. It's simple, really. It's quite simple, actually, and very effective. It's a good place to learn, and I wish that tactical flashpoints in SWTOR don't provide that, because they're just face roll easy. Solo content doesn't provide that. The Revan fight, which would actually be a good place to trial this, would actually be with the Revan fight, because you've got the different allies, not your companions, in a different role. You've got like Darth Mars the tank, you've got, you know, Sutil and Lana are healers, you've got Theron's a DPS, Shay's a DPS. You know, you've got those roles already there. They don't really play those roles very well, so the infrastructure is there. Just use the Revan fight and change it based on the Revan solo fight, that is. Change it based on, you know, what the player is, what the player's role. You know, have it as a solo. I mean, we showed you in WoW, it's a scenario that you queue for. Solo scenario that you queue for in World of Warcraft. You get it from your garrison person that sits behind your command table. I can't remember what they're called. I think it's a garrison lieutenant or something. I can't remember, to be honest. It sits behind your command table and shouts at you. It's very mean, actually. To say that. So anyway, that is all for this video. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.